I must say that Jeff Gordon video was pretty impressive. I was actually rethinking if we should just cancel my speech and watch it again, if anyone's interested. How many of you yesterday attended the keynote sessions at the start of the morning? So I'm going to tell you a quick story before I jump into my discussion today. But my colleague and I, who's here in the second row, we flew in from New York at on Wednesday, and we got in, and we're still 3 hours ahead. And the first thought I had this morning when I woke up at about 3:30 in the morning as I was staring at the ceiling was, I'm walking into a loaded audience. And the reason I thought that was because of the fact that Google came in here. They showed a bunch of flashy, sexy stuff. They then proceeded to say, retail has no cash and has no ability to do anything cool, innovative, or incubate anything. When I was walking to the bathroom, I overheard someone say, oh, it's just so great to see that Facebook and everyone else is here. Well, retail's here, and I'm here to tell you, we're going to do a lot of innovative things in the next few slides, and I'm hopefully going to go through a quick review of retail, make you understand where we are moving as retailers, and hopefully you can take some of this information back to your respective companies and industries and use it. So, if you think about everyone in this room, we're all consumers of retail, each and every day. And there's two main ways in which we interact with retailers. The first way is brick, or in-store, and the second way is click, or internet. And I think the perception of everyone in the media is this. This is the perceived state of retail. It's called showrooming. The customer is tried on hundreds of pairs of shoes. She's likely being served by an associate who works on commission. Then she infers that she's going to take her little smartphone, check hundreds of other retailers online, and purchase, likely for a lower price, from a competitor, and then has the audacity to say, what's your Wi-Fi password? She's going to use the infrastructure we set up for the customer experience. So I think comics do a great job of portraying what people's perceptions are. They also made me rethink if I made the right career choice. But I think what we need to take from this is not right. And I'm going to show you why it's not right in the next couple of slides. So when we go back to the brick versus the click, brick, the big news here that everyone knows about is retail foot traffic has declined year over year over year. I'm going to show you an alarming statistic. From the Wall Street Journal, on the top 60,000 traffic counters in the country, at the largest malls and the largest retailers, you've seen almost a 50% drop since 2010. Now, a lot of you say, okay, sales are done within retail. Well, it's not necessarily that. What it is showing is that we know we have a much more researched consumer. We have a consumer who's coming to the store who has researched either online or has awareness through social media channels or some other way that they have their style, their product in store, and they can go. It equals a lot less browsing. A lot less browsing. The second thing, customers in every age group are buying online. We all know that. Look at this. Age groups 14 through 65 plus. Percentage of the population that's willing to shop online one order for a year. 2013 to 2017. The big takeaway here, 14 to 17 and then 45 plus has the largest percentage increases over and over and over. What does that tell us? No customer's safe. Everyone's moving online in some way, shape, or form, from millennials to boomers. Then we have our friends, the online-only retailers, who apparently are going to take over the world and no one's going to shop in store ever again. Well, if you take a step back, they still are a small percentage. Yes, they are growing faster than normal retail sales. Over the course of this chart, 2009 to 2013, they grew roughly 44%. Normal retail sales, excluding auto, grew about 22%. But what you're starting to see now is a lot of the online-only retailers are realizing they do need to have a physical presence. regardless of size. They may not want a size as big as a department store, but they need to have some type of presence. They know that not every customer is a binary customer, all brick or all click. So before I jump into how we're tackling this and we're thinking about this and hopefully making something relevant to you other than a nice, pretty chart, I want to tell you about the company that I represent. We've got 4 main banners. The 2 on the left are the ones that I represent. The other 2 are recent acquisitions in November 2013. Hudson's Bay, 90 locations across Canada. Largest department store in Canada, iconic brand, amazing heritage. This thing has operated since 1670, starting as fur traders. Unbelievable story. The second one, Lord&Taylor, 50 locations within the Northeast, Midwest, and Florida, US-based chain. It's very unique history as well, and it's also the longest running department store in the US. The next 2, don't represent them, but there are 2 growth engines and platforms for Canada. So now you're like, okay, you told us everyone's moving online, you've got stronger competition from online retailers, and you're working for the 2 oldest companies in North America. What are you going to do about that? The way we like to think about this is in a simple, focused 3-point strategy. It's essentially taking Stanford's version and making it a cowboy version, less the MBA. First, know the customer, track the competition relentlessly. Unbelievably important. When we talk about knowing the customer, know who she is, know who he is, know where he likes to shop, know how he or she finds out about the sale, about the special, what they're looking for, what they value in customer service. So, so, so important. The second one, track the competition. Some people will disagree with this, but I mystery shop the competition every single week. We do it relentlessly. We try and understand what the customer experience is across every single retail we compete against, whether it's department store, specialty, etc. We also track the return. What's the return process like? So now that we're in a new online world and the return rates go up, how does that customer experience the way in which they're returning that product? And of course, we do the return process because we can't artificially inflate our competitors' sales. Number 2, arm, aim, fire, and score. Not from the military, but for whatever reason, this is what we use internally and this is what works to communicate our strategy. I'll go through it in a bit more detail when we get to this slide. And number 3, which I think is incredibly important, no more so than number 1, but stay flexible and be aware. You got to plan for failure. You got to plan for changing market dynamics. And if you're not able to adapt, you're going to die. So let's go back to that first comic that we started this all out with. We talked about no binary customer. There's no 100% brick, there's no 100% click. The way we like to think about it is in a continuum, brick to click. If you think about that customer within that comic, that was customer D. Far right side, all click. This customer knows everything about every retailer that's on the internet and also in store. He or she will likely access the retailer services through multiple sites, affiliate feeds, mobile phones, laptops, corporate laptops, tablets. Very, very active. They're always seeking the best price, and they're willing to buy anything online. On the other side of the continuum, customer A. This is the customer that still reads the newspaper. This is the customer that still goes to the mall without knowing exactly what they want. And shopping is more as a leisure. Customer B. This is starting to move back into the click area. And this is where a customer now starts to use research, and they're willing to do something online. However, they're only comfortable with brands they know and sizes they know. Customer C. This is the customer which is the opposite of the showroomer, and it's our revenge on online only. This is the web roomer. This is the one that uses the web to understand what's out there, goes into the store, tries it on, and then it takes it out right then and there. This is the online customer that only shops in store. So, show of hands. Who's customer D? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we just showed you that the comic is completely wrong. There are 4 different types of customers, and these are the ways that we like to highlight them. Media consumption habits are shifting. A lot of the speeches and the keynotes have talked about this, mobile and everything else, but what we like to look at is to understand across all the various mediums and major medias where all the eye share and time is being spent. If you look at this slide, mobile is obviously the very big one that has shifted very dramatically from 2010 to 2013. But the takeaway from this is traditional offline media remains relevant. Think back to your 4 different customer types. They're all accessing different media. They're all finding out about our sales in a different way. However, digital has now overtaken offline media. Digital has now taken over offline media. Now for the fashionistas, if there are any in the audience, this is more about the fashion and the brands. No graphics on this slide, so I'll be quick. Brands are now global and omnipresent. They're everywhere. You want to access this jacket, you can buy it from anywhere. It's from the UK, I bought it in the US, they do international shipping. There's no need for physical space in any particular country. There's borderless commerce. It's very obvious. Supply chains are now demand chains. And what I mean by that is, if you look at Amazon and their DC strategy, it's to move in close proximity to cities. That's all it is. They want to hit a customer within a day. They're trying to move the chain quicker. If you look at manufacturing, more people are pulling their manufacturing back onshore. More people are buying out the factories and producing it themselves through private brands. They're shortening the process. And then inventory, similar to what we said in the Pepsi keynote, ours is the opposite. You went global, we're now going localized. So we have the ability now to sit back, only buy maybe half of the season's product, wait to see what's hot, and then push it back into those local markets as to what the local market is most hot for. So all this is obvious. Top global brands are more accessible. Unless you have distinguishing characteristics, whether it's service, brands, exclusivity, you're going to fail. Because there's bigger, badder, bolder competition in online only, and the design to shelf process has shrunk as brands have become omnipresent. So we talked a lot about the customer. We've talked a lot about the industry. What do we do with that information now? This is the cowboy version of Stanford. The first one, ARM. Understanding where your current state is, you as a retailer, what your advantages and weaknesses are based upon that. And now this is the time in which you start to figure out which consumer groups, because I've only been saying consumer, is your customer target that you want to go after. Third, ready and empower your team. The second bucket, aim. Build your roadmap and your vision. Understand what strategic relationships you may need to cultivate in order to drive that specific offering. And then lastly, figure out which projects you need to do, figure out how they need to be sequenced and prioritized. Number 3, fire. Over communicate. There's no shortage of communication, or there's no such thing as over communicating. And what we like to use internally is task force. Task force that go after those specific projects. Number 4, score. The only way you know if you're doing success, or you're successful or failing based upon what you had outlined as your strategy. Key metrics that are continually reevaluated, reviewed to understand how well you're doing. Some of the few that we track are up there just for show. Traffic, conversion, average spend, customer acquisition, retention, etc. So we talked about the customer, we talked about the industry, we talked about how we use cowboy framework in order to drive this type of strategy within the organization. I'm now going to talk about number 3. And number 3, it's very plain. It's there. So I'm going to give a couple examples. But Design your strategy knowing that inevitably a portion of it will fail. Something's going to fail. And you're only as strong as your ability to flex based upon what fails or what changes. Number 3 is one that I take very, very seriously. Taking pragmatic, calculated risks, sorry Google, not deep water risks, we're in retail, is something that's incredibly worthwhile. And I'll tell you a quick story. So about 8 months ago, our CEO and chairman, Richard Baker, he came to me and he said, okay, Craver, tell me a crazy idea you got, which I guess means I've got crazy ideas. And I said, Richard, I want to be the first retailer in the history of the world to take Bitcoin. And he looks at me and he says, what the hell is Bitcoin? And so I proceeded to take that as a challenge to start to educate the organization, to understand what Bitcoin truly is, and if we have the ability to take it. My goal was for us to take it in every single brick and mortar location eventually, if we had taken a calculated risk by understanding how big the size of the prize is. So what we did was we worked with a third party to figure out how we can take Bitcoin, and there you go. We launched it. We were the first ones to start taking Bitcoin, and we still accept it today. That information has now given us the ability to understand how big the size of the prize is, or if it will ever be a big prize. Another example is social. Social media for retailers has been incredibly hard to monetize in this first phase. But if you look at where everyone's spending all their time online, it makes sense to try and figure it out. 37 minutes of your online time a day is spent on social networks. That is the first time that it's exceeded email. Everything else has been second to email, except up until this December 2013. So why am I using social as an example? Because I think we need to understand how we play a role in the next phase. These are charts showing Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, percentage of mobile versus desktop. So now we're starting to look at social, see how it's changed. It's moving more mobile. And then, oh, by the way, there's some new entrants that are 100% mobile. You've now got Instagram, Vine, Snapchat, 100% mobile. So as a retailer, what happens next? Phase 1 was a simple pop out to a retailer website. I would take my product, put it onto Twitter or Facebook. Many people would share it. They'd click on it. They'd go to lord&taylor.com or thebay.com and purchase that product. That's first phase. The second phase, which scares me, and we need to figure out how we're going to handle it, is if you look at the Twitters of the world, the Facebooks of the world, they're developing cards and they're collecting payment information, shipping addresses, billing addresses. They're collecting that valuable information in order to do a seamless checkout within their walls. So what do I mean by that? I pull up Twitter on my phone now. They have all that information on me. They can see that same retailer link, click it, and check out right then and there within the Twitter app. Now, it's incredibly compelling, and I think it's going to help us to monetize social as retailers. However, it's a completely unbranded experience. The only time they see our brand is when they receive the product in the box, and that's it. And like I said at the start of the speech, if you can't differentiate the service you're providing or the product you're providing with a branded experience, you're in trouble. So these are the types of struggles that we try and figure out and see how we can play a role in the next phase. So in summary, very simple. Fight for the customer, understand the customer, the rest will follow. Use your research, your insights to develop a clearly articulated strategy. Empower your team, communicate, deliver, yada, yada, yada. You guys all know this, you're strategy people. But I love this last line that my colleague came up with. Adapt the organization to the customer. They never move at the same pace. So I'm hopeful that some of that was relevant to each of you. I'm hopeful you can take some of this information, these slides, the Jeff Gordon video, back to your colleagues and figure out what kind of thinking it can drive. But if nothing resonated, I just want to leave you with one more thing. Thank you for your time, guys.